Right, let's talk about one of the biggest, most frustrating puzzles in AI today. How in the world do you give it a memory? I mean, think about it. Without memory, AI can't really learn, it can't grow, and it definitely can't understand us. But if you can crack that code, well, then everything changes. You know the feeling, right? You're deep into a chat with an AI, you've laid out all the details, you're making progress, and then, bam, it completely forgets a critical piece of info you gave it like 5 minutes ago. It is just so frustrating. And look, you're not going crazy. This digital amnesia is a huge problem for everyone. But what if we could just flip a switch? What if an AI could actually remember your style, your project history, your goals, not just for one conversation, but forever? That's exactly what we're going to dive into. We are going inside the AI's mind to see how it's being built, and we're going to use a really simple metaphor to understand it all: a short-term workbench for what's happening right now, and a long-term filing cabinet for the stuff that needs to stick around. Okay, so let's get into it. At its heart, building an AI memory is all about creating two separate but totally connected systems that have to work together perfectly. It's actually a lot like how our own brains work. So here's the big idea. You split the AI's memory into two parts. First, you've got the workbench. This is kind of like its conscious mind, you know? It's handling the live back and forth conversation. And then you have the filing cabinet. This is the deep, permanent storage where it keeps everything important that it needs to remember for the long haul. Let's start with that workbench. This is where all the action happens in a real-time conversation. It's got to be fast, it's got to be active, but it has some pretty serious limitations. So the biggest challenge here is something developers call context rot. See, the AI's short-term memory, its context window, it's not infinite. As your chat gets longer and longer, older stuff, even if it's still super important, literally gets pushed off the workbench to make space for the new stuff coming in. So how do you fix that? Well, the quick and dirty fix is something called truncation. It's basically like just sweeping the oldest notes right off your desk. You just chop off the beginning of the conversation. But the much smarter play is compaction. This uses another AI to constantly summarize the conversation, keeping the key points while clearing up space. And this really gets to the heart of the trade-off. As AI expert Julia Vinzinger says, it's a big choice for developers. Do you want to save a little money with that brute force truncation method? Or do you want to invest in a much higher quality AI that can actually follow a complex conversation? Okay, so now let's move over to the filing cabinet. This is how we start building a more permanent intelligence. We're not talking about what you said 5 minutes ago anymore. We're talking about how the AI remembers you and your projects from week to week, or even year to year. And that brings up the most important question of all, right? In this massive flood of conversation, how does the system figure out which little nuggets of information are pure gold? The facts, the preferences, the goals, the stuff that's actually worth saving forever? Well, the solution is this really clever three-step process. First, the AI extracts the key facts from all the noise, things like your name or a project deadline. Then, it consolidates that new info with what it already knows about you. And finally, it merges and updates everything, getting rid of any duplicates to keep its file on you perfectly fresh and relevant. But here's the big catch. A perfect memory system is totally useless if the memories it's storing are wrong. Or even worse, if they've been messed with on purpose. The integrity of that filing cabinet, it's everything. This is the million-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, if you can trick an AI into remembering something that's totally false, it could cause some massive problems. So how do you stop the AI's permanent memory from being hacked or corrupted? So to protect that memory, they're building this multi-layered security system. It's programmed to trust what you say directly, way more than things it just infers. It has built-in defenses to block malicious attacks, and this is crucial. It's taught to say, "I'm not sure," when it doesn't know something. These rules act like a bouncer, making sure only true and relevant info gets into that filing cabinet. So, when you combine a really smart workbench with a super secure filing cabinet, you get something, well, something truly revolutionary. The future here isn't just an AI that can recall facts. It's an AI that actually understands your story. Just think about that for a second. When you work on any project, it has a story, right? It evolves. There are early ideas, there are turning points, there are final goals. The ultimate dream here is to build an AI that doesn't just see a random list of facts, but actually gets the entire narrative arc of what you're trying to do. The futurist Stephen Johnson puts this perfectly. He says the goal has to be bigger than just managing information. It's about organizing all that information into a story so the AI understands that a problem you solved 6 months ago is in the past, while a goal you set yesterday is what matters now. It's about putting context in context. And that really leaves us with a final, huge question to think about. Imagine having an assistant, a partner, a collaborator that remembers every single step of your journey, that understands your real intentions, and that helps you build on your own story. What could you create with that? What would you be able to achieve?